Yo, what's up, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between? Welcome back to How to Drum and Bass. And today, I want to talk about something super awesome because we're going to talk about one of my favorite artists of all time, Fox Stevenson. Now, first of all, personally, I fucking love Fox Stevenson. I've been listening to his music since a very long time, since before he was all this popular, and I've continued to listen to everything he releases, and I fucking love Fox, and I know a lot of people love Fox with me. Some of you might not think that fondly of him, might not be your style, but there's one thing that is undisputable, and that is that Fox is a fantastic producer that's worth admiring. And today, we're gonna do something that I think is unique on the internet, because I don't think there's any Fox Stevenson tutorials out there. Actually, I just fact-checked that there is one tutorial that I could find out there, but it's not that great. And also, it's not necessarily that much about Fox's unique style, which is one thing that I think is a little bit mythical in the drum and bass production world. So we're going to touch upon that today. Now, today is going to be a two-parter because we're going to be looking at Fox Stevenson's Go Like, which is one of my favorite songs by Fox Stevenson. Super energetic, super powerful. It's also quite complicated, and there is multiple layers to the sound. We're going to be creating the main lead bass. Today, we're going to do the top layer. The reason for that is because I've only figured out the top layer just yet. To be honest with you, it's quite complex, and Fox Stevenson's a pretty technical producer who does some nifty little things, so I'm still figuring out the bottom part, the heavy bass part under it, but we'll get to that, and that will be part 2 coming out very soon. So, what are we doing today? Let's dive in. This is the drop of Go Like. Really cool. Really cool. So what's happening in this drop is I think there are 3 different sounds. There is the first part that's slightly different from the second part. I think there's a different bass under the top lead, but the top lead, which is soloed in this little part here, I think that remains steady over both of these parts. So that's the part that we figured out and that we're going to talk about today on how to create it. And it's actually really cool, employs some simple but very effective techniques that I think we can all take some inspiration from. So this is what we have created. Pretty cool. And also, we can change how dirty it is, how much of that vibrato is in there, and all the other things to taste quite easily. So if you don't specifically think that that is the exact sounds, it doesn't matter because we can change it. So let's dive into what we have done here. We got a empty Serum patch here, and we've got these notes here. Now, I could show you all of these notes, but really, if you want these notes to follow along, you can go down to the link below where you can download the free preset for this, as well as the MIDI notes, so that you can work along at any pace that you want. And also, I should note that a version of this sound, along with 100+ other cool sounds, are part of the Drum and Bass Essentials preset pack for Serum. So go check that out too. Now, we're gonna start out with a empty Serum patch. So obviously that doesn't sound that exciting yet. And what we're gonna be working with is basically this music theory where a sine wave playing at a lower octave is going to interfere with a square wave that's playing at a higher octave. This is just the nature of how sound works, and because a square wave is a pulse wave and has all the harmonics at the very top, it's going to interfere with this sine wave, and that's going to create a beautiful type of distortion, and that's what we want. So we're starting out with a sine wave. We're going to put that at -2 octaves, and we're going to put the square wave at +1, so that we have this bass sound here basically, and the higher harmonics is going to be determined by this square sound. Now, as you can hear, that sounds too clean. Problem, however, is mostly we want to distort the upper harmonics, but the upper harmonics are a square. We can't really distort a square because it's already perfectly distorted. You can't distort anything above this line because the line is already at the highest point possible. But we can do so when we have this sine wave going under it. Let's quickly just distort this. You can hear that literally the volume is only going up. When we take this sine wave, and we don't actually need it to be at this high volume, let's put it somewhere here. And we take a very heavy distortion such as the diode, and we just crank it all the way up. We do get a nice amount of distortion. Now, what I want to do is I want to keep the low end mostly distorted by this diode and the top end by the interference between these two. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pre here, it's just a filter, and we're going to dial that back to something here. However, we're going to dial back down the mix here. so that we get that distorted sort of low / middle end, and we keep the top end tonality. Something like that. We can always adjust it later. Now, we want to get that square wave a little bit more dirty and a little bit more distorted in a way. So one really cool thing that we can do is we can get this LFO here, and we can apply it to the level, and just let it go all the way here. And we can take the BPM off of this and put it at a really fast rate. So something like 60 hertz or something like that. So that's going to give it that shaky, almost sort of trilling effect to it, which is really cool. However, we also notice now that we have a lot of lows going on, and we don't necessarily want that. We want the sine wave to interfere with the square wave before it's routed into the effect, but we don't quite want those lows. So let's take an EQ. Let's put it somewhere here after the distortion, I think. And let's take out those lows. Now, we don't need this Q here, so let's do that. And let's put this up here somewhere. Now, let's bring that out with a compressor. Just up the gain. All right, so this volume automation right now is very sharp, and it's sounding almost like crunchy, like too crunchy. That's not what we want. However, we have this beautiful option here for this smooth. Now, this is an often overlooked thing on Serum, but it's actually really cool. And if you want to know more about what actually these buttons do here, we talk a lot about these and how to use them for creative sound design in drum and bass sound design mastery. So go check out my brand new online course in the link below for sure. But basically what it does is, instead of following the LFO sharply, it's going to smooth the LFO out. So it's going to actually treat it more as if it was like this. Like, it just wasn't this sharp and pointy, but just a little bit less so. And you can hear that when we up this, we get a lot more of what we are really looking for. And so similarly, what we can do is we can actually take the noise here, and we can go and grab something that is nice and crunchy, like the ARP White, for example, and we can do the same thing to this, which is also a really, I think, overlooked way to add some crunch to some stuff. So let's take the smooth back for a little bit, just so you can hear what that sounds like by itself. That can really add some nice crunch to basically anything. So let's turn these oscillators back on, and let's get the smooth back to like about maybe 66 or something like that. Okay, so now what we've gotten to is the point where we're going to determine how much we want the sine wave to interfere with the square. And it's also finally now that you're going to hear what I've been talking about all this time. So right now, we get a lot of noise, right? Like it doesn't sound good. When we dial this back, that's what we want. And all that's happening is because we have less amplitude on the sine wave that's messing up this square wave. We're getting the right amount of dirt, but we're not getting that much destructive, noisy interference. Hey, quick break. If you're enjoying these videos and you like my style of teaching, and you've been feeling like you want to get more into sound design, specifically for drum and bass, then maybe you want to check out my brand new online course called Drum and Bass Sound Design Mastery. It's an absolutely massive course with over 150 videos spanning 14 hours of content, where we teach you two things. In the first half, we teach you everything there is to know about synthesizing sound in Serum. And in the second part, we show you how to use that knowledge to create the most popular sounds in drum and bass. I guess you can see it like the ultimate masterclass of drum and bass sound design. So if that sounds like something you could be interested in, check the link in the description below to find out more about this awesome course. All right, let's get on with the video. And we can also turn it down completely. But as you can hear, that's just not as full as we want it to be. And then so, in a last attempt to add some extra character to the sound, we can go and take a similar LFO and either put it at a fast rate or just take the BPM off and figure out the rate that works for us. But for now, yeah, let's maybe put it on 1/8. And we're gonna go ahead into the matrix and assign LFO to the master tuning, because we want to create vibrato. We want it to kind of go you want to get some movement in there. So let's make this unipolar for just a second. Maybe we need bipolar, I'm not sure. And let's go and put a little bit on there, maybe like 6 or something. You can hear that's way too intense. But one nice thing that we can do, if we need a very small value here, we can choose a mitigator. We can actually put macro 1 on how much of this rate is used. So actually, it's very similar to this, where we determine how much percentage of the output is actually being used, but then it's going to be put on a macro. So at 0, there's nothing. And at 100, it's way too much. But now we have much finer control over where we want it to be. And it just adds a little bit more character, a little bit more waviness to that sound that I think is also present maybe in Fox Stevenson's upper lead. And then lastly, what we can go and do is we can go and add some chorus to it, or something like hyper all the way at the end of this chain to make it a little bit wider. I would say that is the taste though.
Okay, so really quickly, now that we've talked about all of the elements that make this sound, I did realize we strayed a little bit from what the original end result in the beginning sounded like. That's just because you have to tweak a couple of these settings to get it just right. So let's talk about that really quickly. So you definitely want only a very tiny bit of this vibrato in there. We want to control the amount, the levels of the sine wave and the square wave, where the sine wave is about just there, like about like maybe 29%. And the square wave comes up to about like 40% or something like that. And then these are all the settings for the effects so that you can copy them, and that'll get you the exact sound that we're looking for.
Right, and that is how you make the top part of Fox Stevenson's go like. And for sure, in the actual song, there is a lot more layering and there will be some post-processing. But once I figure out the next part of this song, which will be part 2 of this video, which is coming out hopefully very soon, we'll talk all about that. So make sure to subscribe. Please also, if you enjoyed this video and if you liked it, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment to win the prize, or just because you like me, or because you want to say what I should make next. It really helps the algorithm put my stuff into more people's feed like you and help people create more drum and bass. And isn't that what we all want? All right, once again, thank you for watching. Have fun today trying all this stuff out, and I'll see you in the next one.